Okay, we're going to look at substantive adjectives, but before we do that, let's just review some vocabulary that we've seen. Some of it may be new. I think most of it we've seen. Just to be reminded that one of the benefits of learning some Latin is that in doing so, you're learning the origin of many, many English words. So, for example, aeternus, right? Take off the A at the beginning, and it's pretty clear that our words eternal and eternity come from that adversus, turned against, opposite, facing, adversary. Beatus, which means blessed. Our words beatify, beatitude. For example, Matthew chapter 5, blessed are the poor in spirit. That's the Beatitudes, and so that comes from that Latin word. Deus, deity, deify, deism. Discipulus, disciple, discipline. Dominus, dominate, domineer, and related words. Filius and filia. We've talked about this word before. This word in English is not so common, but it is there. Filial, usually used in terms of filial duty, filial responsibility, the obligation of a child to a parent. Juxta, juxtapose. In the Middle Ages, that I will get changed to a J, and so our word juxtapose comes from that, or is related to that. Medius, our word medium, comes from that, and a related, middle. Oculus, for example, binoculars, by, two. So literally binoculars are two eyes. We have an English word monocle, meaning one eye, that the mono there, monos from Greek, meaning one. Paucus, meaning few, and we have the English word paucity. Let me see, there was a paucity of people, you could say. It doesn't sound very good, but it makes sense. There were a few people. Populus, our word popular, populate, etc., comes from that. Primus, primary, primate, means first. Proximus, proximity, proximate, approximate. Puer, boy. And you have the word in English puerile, which, stop acting in such a puerile fashion, stop acting so much like a child. And then transfer, transition, etc. Okay, let's go on to look at what substantive adjectives are. So suppose you threw a party and a friend asked you how it went. You could say a few showed up. Of course, your friend would understand that you mean that a few people came to your party. The word few is an adjective. It modifies nouns. For example, I saw a few cats. I read a few books, and so on. So that adjective few gives us information about the nouns. But when the noun the adjective is modifying is clear from context, the noun can often be dropped. So, for example, a friend looks at your impressive personal library, and then you point to the bookshelf and say, I've read a few. Of course, we understand that you mean a few books. Okay? So, let's look at a couple examples here. So consider these examples of the adjective multus, meaning many. Multi enim veniant in nomino meo. Multi enim veniant in nomine meo. Many will come in my name. Well, we don't have the specific word for people there, it'd be populus, right? But it's understood from the context that many people will come in my name. So multi from multus is the substantive adjective, okay? Et multus seducent, and they shall seduce many, right? Well, whom will the people referred to above deceive? Many other people. So, and they shall seduce many, understood that the many is referring to many people. So notice in the first part of the verse, the many are doing the action. So the adjective is in the nominative plural case. In the second part of the verse, the many are receiving action, and so the adjective is in the accusative case. Okay, let's look at some examples. Nolite dare sanctum canibus. Canibus. The C-A-N-I related to canine in English. Canibus, to the dogs. Nolite, as you see in the vocabulary, don't, do not. Dare, you remember, first conjugation verb, to give. So don't give sanctum canibus. Literal translation is something like don't give the sacred thing, don't give what is sacred to the dogs, right? And so sanctus meaning holy. And so sanctum there is an adjective, but it's understood that it means the holy thing, the holy object, something like that. Okay, number 2, scio qui sis. Down in the vocabulary we see that means I know who you are. Sanctus Dei. Dei, genitive singular, second declension. Sanctus, the holy of God, right? Well, we understand what that means. The holy person, the holy one of God. Et congregabunt electos eius. Et congregabunt electos eius. Electus, elected, chosen. All right, so we looked under the vocabulary. They will gather. Congregabunt, eius means his, and his chosen will gather. And his elected will gather. His elected what? Obviously we understand that to mean, and his elected people will gather. Okay? Electos there being the substantive adjective. Number 4, super pauca fuisti fidelis. Over a little bit you have been faithful. Okay? Pauca, few. And so what do we have here? Over a few things you were faithful. Literally it reads, over a few you were faithful. Well, a few what? A few things, a few jobs, a few missions. So that's a substantive adjective there. Super multa te constituam. Super multa te constituam. Right? So I will place you, te constituam, te meaning you're speaking to another person, singular. Te constituam, I will place you super, over, multa, much or many. Again, understood, much or many. What? Well, from the context, we'd have to figure that out from the context. But I will place you over many things. I will place you over many tasks. I will place you over many people, something like that. So we have to figure out what the multa is related to from the context, but the context will tell us what that is. Substantive adjective. 6. Cepit docere illos multa. Cepit. He began, docere, to teach, illos, them, multa, much, or many things, right? So he began to teach them much. He began to teach them many things. The idea is, we're not specifically told what he's teaching, but we see that multus there is the adjective, and it's kind of standing in for other nouns that could be there. Curavit multos. Curavit multos. He healed many. And we understand from the context this means he healed many people. Beti qui crediderunt. Beti qui crediderunt. Believed, have believed. Beti, blessed. And here we have the plural. Blessed the ones, blessed the people who believed, right? Blessed, in the plural, are the people, blessed are the ones, qui crediderunt. Okay? So we do this in English all the time. Did anybody come to the party? There were a few. We understand what that means, right? A few standing in for a few people. And so we see this in Latin too.